Is marriage for me? I know we have all asked ourselves that question at some point on our singleness journey, and today we're gonna tackle it once and for all. So, there's a lot of talk nowadays on, you know, marriage and the idolatry of marriage, and honestly, I cannot, for the life of me, understand or even wrap my mind around why we would take something so pure and undefiled, God's sacred institution of marriage, and make it an idol. I don't even know if that's something possible, you know, to achieve as someone on the outside of marriage looking in. But when we talk about idolatry, we by now understand that that can refer to anything at all that we put above God. And so, as singles, we, most of us at least, we have the desire to be married. And, you know, most times that desire grows with us, like from childhood stage. And somehow, when we get into our early 20s and we feel like time is running out, we say, you know what, God, if that's not in your plan for me, then just take away the desire. Boo. God is not going to take away a desire He gave to you. First and foremost, we have to remember that marriage is for the Lord. And so, if we think that we're grappling with desires that are not fruitful, that are not ultimately for the glory of God, then we can crucify those desires. But I don't think there is a need to crucify the desire for marriage. Marriage is a godly institution, and it is the only institution that directly reflects, the relationship between Christ and His church. Marriage reforms us into the image of Christ. And although Paul says, I would wish that you remain single for the sake of your service to Christ, we also have to remember that there is no other, union, there is no other partnership or institution that will ever come near to marriage, in that it is the only thing that can make us that can bring us as close to the image of Christ as we possibly can be. And so my take is, if you have the desire for marriage, don't talk yourself out of seeing that promise. We also know that everyone won't get married, and some persons, have made peace with that. However, I think those who have the gift of singleness know from early on in life that, this is my calling, this is my portion, and it's not a fight. It just comes easy for them. Like, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to serving the Lord. That's their perspective. But I think as singles, we anticipate marriage so much because we feel like it is going to make us the happiest version of ourselves. That is the mindset that we have to crucify. Marriage is not for happiness. Marriage is not for us. It is about how well we can serve the other person. But I think at the core of everything, it is that we want our sexual needs to be fulfilled, and we know that the only way to do it God's way is in marriage. And so I think that's where, everything else stems from. One of the best gifts we can give ourselves in this period of waiting is truly learning God's design and intention for marriage. What's God's mind towards marriage? What is the true mission and calling of marriage? And the more we begin to understand that, is the more we will honor the process and the preparation, to get into that phase of life, because once we enter into it, there is no turning back. And so it's a huge commitment, it's a huge calling. And once we stop reducing it down to just sex, we will understand why God has us waiting, why it is such an important part of our lives that we cannot just rush into, why we cannot just marry the first person we meet, why it matters so much. Who you marry is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. And so that's why it's important to wait on the Lord, to develop those characteristics that will help you achieve a godly relationship. And as I have ventured into that, over the past few days, I've just been thinking about ways in which I can, just really venture into more self-work, more self-awareness, just being in tune with my emotional side, my mental side, why it is that I think the way I do, why it is that I behave the way I do, why do I operate in my friendships and relationships the way that I do. And as I sit with myself and ask myself these hard questions, it really unearths parts of me that need healing. And I think as we navigate this period of life, this period of singleness, one of the best things we could ever do is get to know ourselves in the Word, and also just enlist the help of others who can, assist us in understanding who we are at the core. And one of the best ways to do this is counseling. And so self-awareness is really important. It helps us become emotionally mature, mentally stable. It helps us to communicate better. It improves the relationships with those around us. And one thing I've also had to remind myself is, the relationship with your father is almost like the the exact projection of what your future relationship will be with whoever you decide to marry. And so the parts of that need healing, now is the time to address it. And it's hard work, looking within and understanding your thought patterns, understanding the broken parts of you, understanding where needs healing, and then having those hard conversations. That's hard work, but it's work that's necessary before you enter what you want to be a fruitful relationship. And so I always say perspective is everything on your singleness journey. It can be the most amazing time of your life depending on how you use it, and I am committed, I'm determined to seeing all the blessings, receiving all the benefits of my singleness, tapping into who I am, learning about me, and becoming a better sister, becoming a better daughter, becoming a better friend, becoming a better Christian. How is it that I want to have a relationship with a significant other when I cannot even maintain the relationship I have with God? you know and so these are just a few of my thoughts, and I am really just so trying to be so intentional about how I view this time God has given to me to just be with Him, be with myself, be with my family, and become the best version of me.